So a couple of philosophy things when we talk about game planning and putting together a game plan and going through that entire process. First for us, it's always about mentality before scheme, and that's something I think that we have to constantly remind ourselves. I mean, we all love coaching, we all love studying the tape, getting the great scheme, the chess match, all that, and that's certainly a big part of it, but we can't ever lose sight on mentality. And one thing we always try to remind each other in our staff room is if mentality is ever falling behind scheme, then we're going to get in trouble. So we've got to make sure that mentality is always first. Within the game plan, balance for us is very crucial. Now, I think a lot of people define balance as you think, well, we're going to run it 50% of the time, we're going to throw it 50% of the time, and that's not necessarily the case for us. Balance for us as an offense is we're going to attack different defenses and different schemes different ways. And to me, balance is, are we good enough as an offense to beat people in a number of different ways? Can we beat people pounding the rock? Can we beat people throwing the ball down the field? Can we beat people jumping in empty and quick gaming people to death? Can we beat people with tempo? Can we beat people in 4-minute offense? I mean, all of those different weapons that you have. And so for us, when we think balance, we don't ever look at run pass. That's not a big deal to us. We may get in a game, and we've had plenty of games where the game is dictated that we've run the ball 60, 70% of the time. And certainly the opposite for throwing the ball. Balance for us is, do we have the ability to do those things when called upon? Finding creative ways to run our best schemes, I think that's something that we all look at, figure out what you're good at, something that your players know extremely well, and then how can we make it look as many different ways to the defense as possible, okay? Big one for us here is keeping the defense honest. And I think a simple concept, but I think it's something that you can achieve a lot of different ways. We try to look at ways that defenses attack us, and if there's things that defenses do that are particularly troublesome, maybe they really overplay this route concept, they really trigger against this run concept, anything where they are turning loose and becoming the aggressor, we've got to try to flip that on them. And so we spend a lot of time looking at that in our offensive staff room, okay? If they do this to us, if they're going to attack this way and they're very good at it, how can we flip that to our advantage, but still within that keep our schemes and the integrity of our schemes, okay? Matchups. Honestly, I think as our offensive staff has grown together, as I've grown as a coach, I think you say maybe what's the difference like now as opposed to when I first became an OC at East Carolina, 10, 11, 12 years ago, I would say without a doubt, I pay way more attention to matchups than I used to. And I think that's so important, and being able to create, one of the head coaches I work for always asks, how do we create advantages? Okay, how can we do that? And there's so many different ways, by formations, by moving players around, by creating the best matchups you possibly can in the run game for your offensive linemen. I mean, there's so many different things that we can do, and are we putting guys in a position to be successful? Are we finding those weak links on a defense, and are we attacking those? And I think so much of it is, well, we're just, we're going to do what we do. Yes, but can you find a way to do what you do and have your best attack their worst? And if you do that, you're going to be in a much better position, okay? Always have answers, and this to me goes back to balance, okay? And I remember, I think my first or second year as an OC, I was working for Ruffin McNeil at East Carolina, and we were before a game, and I was, really green, learning kind of on the fly, and we were in a pregame meeting, and there was a scenario that came up, and he said, all right, if this happens, what's our answer? And I remember sitting there thinking like, man, I don't have a great answer. And I thought that was a great way to look at things as a coach of what are our answers going to be, thinking about the contingencies and how we're going to handle those situations, putting yourself mentally in, especially those big situations. Put yourself mentally in, hey, it's that 4th and goal call from the 12, and we got one play to win the game. We got to score a touchdown. Like, what are you calling right now? And preparing yourself and preparing your kids that way. And then the last for us is always trusting, our system, okay? Again, the balance, and I think we all feel it, and I'll talk a little bit more about it when we show you one of our game menus and what that looks like. But I think the push and pull we always feel is how much do we branch out, game plan, put new things in versus trust what we do. And at the end, for us, we always tend to come back to trust our system, trust what we've done, give it a few wrinkles, and then let's turn it loose.